I knew Bill cared very deeply about the future of the ministry, and he was at a place in transitioning from being the president and handing the reins of the ministry over. And he had a high degree of motivation to kind of clean up everything and get things, as he would say, shipshape before he handed it over. And I was at North Myrtle Beach on a summer project, leading that project, and I get a call from Bill's assistant and said, "Hey, Bill would like to meet with you. Can you come by this afternoon?" And I said, "Well, I'm in North Myrtle Beach on the summer project, but I'll be home in 10 days. Can it wait?" And hand over the phone and muffled talking, and he came back on and said, "Yeah, you can wait." I hung up the phone, and I thought, it's not uncommon for Bill to call and want to meet. I was the national campus director. It was still his baby, and he had definite opinions on what should happen. But there was just something about this. I thought, maybe I should be more available. So I called him back and said, "Hey, if you want me to fly home, I can fly down, meet, and fly back up to the project." And so his assistant, muffled talking on the phone, came back and said, "Yeah, that'd be great. Can you meet tomorrow afternoon?" So, sure. So, fly down to Orlando to meet with Bill. And before I got on the plane, a friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, I hear you're coming into town. Can I pick you up at the airport?" And this guy was a leader in the ministry, and I thought, "How did you know I was coming into town? We just set this up. And why do you want to pick me up at the airport? You've never offered to pick me up at the airport before." And he goes, "Well, you're in trouble." And I go, "Oh, really?" I said, "Like real trouble or normal trouble?" And he goes, "No, like real trouble this time." And okay. So he picked me up and we went to lunch, and he said, "Yeah, Bill is really upset with you and really concerned about where things are going, and he's going to fire you today." And I thought, well, thanks for the warning. So I said, "Well, how did you know?" And he says, "Well, somebody called me and gave me a heads up because they cared about you a lot and they wanted you to know." And so I appreciated that very much. And so I went in to meet with Bill, and Steve was there, and Bill starts out and says, "How's Christy and how are the kids?" Which is how he always was. No matter what was going on, he always wanted to know what was happening with your family, your wife. Is everybody okay? And he really cared about people. And then he spent the next 20 minutes after I answered that question telling me of all the concerns that he had about me and my leadership in the campus ministry. And he started listing them. He felt like I was full of pride, and I was not teachable. I wasn't a team player. I was on my own agenda, those kind of things. And so I'm like, wow, okay. He said, "I'm going to replace you as the national campus director, but I still believe in you. I still have confidence in you as a leader, and I think you have a lot of potential. So I'm going to have you assist me for the next year in this year of transition, and I will work on those things in your life." But I think in a lot of ways what he wanted to see there was, how would I respond to him? Would I respond with fighting and with a sense of pride and defensive,ness, or would I respond in a different way? And that, I think, is the grace of God, where in spite of being confronted with some concerns, several of which I did not think were true, God gave me the grace. And it was the voice of the Lord saying to me, "Look, I called you to the ministry. You do what you're asked to do." And so that response of being able to say to Bill, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. If it's carry your bags, I'll carry your bags. Bill, God called me to be on staff with Campus Crusade, and I serve at your pleasure. But can I have a few days just to pray before I respond to your specific concerns? And he said, "Yeah, sure, that's fine." And so drove back to the airport, called Christy and told her I was on my way home, and she goes, "Well, how did it go?" And I said, "It was interesting." And she said, "Well, you didn't get fired, did you?" And laughed. And I said, "Well, yeah, probably." So landed back at Myrtle Beach, and so for the next several days, just sought the Lord, fasted and prayed, and say, Lord, what is it that I need to hear? And so I just started down the list, and the first one was pride, and I said, Lord, I don't think that's there. It's something that I've dealt with at different times, and is it still there? Is it still there in that way? And through various passages of Scripture, the Lord brought me to a word and this conviction, and it was the word smug, or smugness. And I was like, wow, okay. The Lord was saying to me, at times you can just be smug, which is kind of a, hey, okay, whatever, I kind of know better, but I'll go along with whatever. And it's this attitude, which really is a form of pride. And the reality is, pride in any fashion is offensive to God. That He just wants to winnow out of my heart. And I came back to Bill, wrote Bill a 3-page letter, met with him and read it, and said, Bill, here are the things that the Lord said to me, and I shared about that specific piece. And it was an amazing time of the Lord once again bringing me back and saying, it's all about your heart. Is your heart tender to me and humble before me? If it is, I will use you. A month and a half later, Bill's coming to our National Campus Ministry Team's leadership retreat, but he wanted to come and evaluate kind of what was going on now that I was reporting directly to him. And at lunch on the second day, Bill called me aside and said, there's not a problem here. Keep doing what you're doing, and you don't need to report to me anymore. And so that's what was decided, that I would stay as the national director. I wouldn't get fired. So that was one of the most challenging times in our lives, going through that period of time. He didn't call me into ministry and say, well, you're only going to minister in these high, lofty positions. At some point, the Lord will take me out of a leadership role and I'll serve in a different capacity. And we all need to be willing to come back to that place and saying, I'm here to serve the Lord, not to occupy a certain role or leadership position. I'm willing to do what it's needed for the cause of Christ or to help the organization.